again. This time take a vitamin, yeah, and vitamin. Everything I take it as a compliment. I get that.
In the early days of the Ultimate Fighting Championship, one-night tournaments were a staple of nearly every event. While the UFC's evolution caused it to move away from the tournament format, the sport of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu has thrived with this tournament structure. In 2016, a young Gordon Ryan filled in for an injured teammate at the Eddie Bravo Invitational. It was there that this relatively unknown prospect grew into the king of the grappling world that he is today. Tonight, Gordon Ryan returns to UFC Fight Pass to solidify his status as the best in the submission grappling game.
It's more about just pushing the sport forward. It's about showing the fans, giving the fans a show. If I can push the sport to the next level, then that's what I'm looking to do from here on out.
When he takes on a familiar foe and former opponent and training partner, Nick Rodriguez.
Going against Gordon Ryan would give me an opportunity to show the world that I have the ability to be the best grappler in the world. If you get a match with Gordon, you beat him, period, you're the best.
Tonight, we'll also see 8 grapplers square off in a one-night tournament with a potential $25,000 prize hanging in the balance. Plus, former UFC bantamweight champion Miesha Tate returns to make her Fight Pass Invitational debut.
What I'm trying to prove to myself tonight is that I am one of the best grapplers to ever do it. So that is my goal, to show up and surprise people.
Standing in her way will be BJJ icon Bia Mesquita.
I know Miesha's gonna be becoming strong and trying to give her best, but I'm more than well prepared to have my hands raised.
Live from Las Vegas, this is the UFC Fight Pass Invitational 3, and it starts right now. Las Vegas, Nevada is no doubt the mecca for combat sports. Dubbed the fight capital of the world, Las Vegas tonight finds itself as the center of the submission grappling universe. We are inside the UFC Apex for the third installment of the UFC Fight Pass Invitational. Tonight, the stars are out as former UFC bantamweight champion Miesha Tate makes her FPI debut when she takes on the BJJ icon and Beatrice Mesquita. Also on the card tonight is the king of the grappling world, Gordon Ryan. There's been no one better than him these last few years. Tonight, he hopes to continue his reign over the BJJ world as he's in our main event against Nick Rodriguez. Live from inside the UFC Apex, this is the UFC Fight Pass Invitational 3. Hey everybody, I'm TJ DeSantis. Thanks for joining us tonight for the UFC Fight Pass Invitational. Alongside B-Mac, Brandon McCatherine, and Michael Chiesa, we appreciate you joining us for an exciting night of BJJ action. B-Mac, you've been live for multiple Eddie Bravo Invitationals. Submission grappling, it's really changed over these last few years, and if you need evidence of that, just look where we are.
Yeah, check it out, man. We've got the UFC now backing up jiu-jitsu. I think not only is this a huge moment for these grapplers, but it's a huge moment really for the entire jiu-jitsu community, TJ.
And Michael Chiesa, you're no stranger to submissions. 11 of his 18 wins come by way of stoppage via submission. You're a pretty big fan of this BJJ game as well.
A huge fan of BJJ, huge fan of wrestling, anything involving combat sports. But you can tell the UFC wanting to get involved with sports jiu-jitsu just so they want to help progress the sport. They want to help push it further. And of course, I'm excited to watch some of my friends compete tonight.
100%. We've got a stacked field tonight as well. Our tournament is set to crown a champion in the absolute division. B-Mac, there are some real talented individuals here in this tournament.
Yeah, in the tournament, one of the matches that I'm most excited to see is going to be Mason Fowler versus Pat Shigoli. Shigoli, of course, built a reputation in the jiu-jitsu community. He's out there ripping on heel hooks, possibly ending people's careers. He's only 16 years old, but he's got his hands full. One of the most accomplished grapplers in this tournament, Mason Fowler.
There is Pat Shigoli. We'll see what he can do tonight on the mat. But another guy that I know you're excited to see do work, Michael, is Andy Varela. He's a local guy. He wants to put on a show in front of his hometown.
You know, I'm very excited to watch Andy Varela compete. Andy Varela is the smallest competitor in the absolute tournament, and that just shows he wants to face the toughest competition. He thrives on being the smaller guy and taking on bigger opponents. We saw that when he took on Satoshi Ishii, who was light years above his size. So for him to throw his hat in the mix, wanting to get involved in this absolute tournament, shows that he's put on the size and he doesn't lack the confidence to compete with the best guys in the absolute division.
That is our 8-man tournament later on tonight, but it all leads up to our main event when we see the King, Gordon Ryan. You know, this guy is so talented, B-Mac, I think even Joe Rogan might call him the BJJ of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
You know what? I don't know. Maybe Travis Luter's the Michael Jordan of BJJ.
Right. Fair enough.
But yeah, I mean, Gordon is obviously not just one of the most talented grapplers now, he's one of the most talented grapplers we've ever seen in the history of jiu-jitsu. He's super accomplished, ADCC champion, and not only is he winning, but he's blowing through these guys. So this matchup with Nicky Rod, Nicky's going to have his hands full. He just lost to him at ADCC, and let's see what Nicky can bring to the table.
We will see what happens tonight in our main event, but another star to keep your eye on is the former UFC bantamweight champion, Miesha Tate. She is in action tonight, and who better to break down Miesha Cupcake Tate than a fellow, is it Washingtonian?
Yeah, Washingtonian be the right way to say it, TJ. Look, Miesha Tate, there was once a time when we called her Miesha Takedown Tate. The backbone of her MMA skills is her wrestling. There was once a point in time where she was the 2005 Washington State champion in high school. She's the 2008 silver medalist in the FILA World Grappling Championships. So the backbone of her skills really rely on her grappling, and she wants to go out there and test herself against unarguably the best female grappler we've ever seen in the world in BM Escape. So for her, she wants to go out there, she wants to show she's still one of the best grapplers in the world. She's got tremendous submission defense. We saw that in the Sarah McMahon fight, and she just wants to go out there and test herself in any way she can. She's won all the titles she can as a female mixed martial artist. Now she wants to go out there and test herself in the grappling world.
And for Bia Mesquita, B-Mac, she actually wants to transition into mixed martial arts. While it's not an MMA fight tonight, she would love a win over Miesha Tate.
Yeah, and Bia, like Michael was saying, the most accomplished female we've ever had. When I was calling ADCC, she'd walked out there with GOAT written across her rash guard. So she's looking to come out here and make sure that she puts a stamp on her possibly blossoming MMA career.
We'll see what happens. That is headed your way later tonight. You know, as far as motivation is concerned for Bia Mesquita, she's got some extra motivation, as well as her husband is involved in our 8-man tournament. And you know what they say, the family that fights together stays together.
Me and Patrick competing on the same tournament is also a big motivation, because we're able to train together to motivate each other every day. So it's made things a lot easier when you have somebody by your side like 24 hours a day, and who we can share and your feelings and your thoughts, and that makes a lot of easier and a huge motivation for us to be together, fighting together, and for sure winning together too.
Let's take a look now at the rules for the UFC Fight Pass Invitational 3. Tonight's tournament bouts will consist of one 8-minute regulation period where all submissions are legal. For our singles matches, each bout will consist of one 10-minute regulation period where all submissions except for leg locks will be legal. And in our main event, our regulation period will be one 20-minute round where all submissions are legal. Tonight our bouts can be won by submission, a loss of consciousness, disqualification, or by referee stoppage. If any of our bouts fail to end with a submission, a winner will be determined in overtime. Also, stalling will not be permitted, and if the referee identifies an athlete is stalling, a minute penalty will be added to their overtime bank. And to prevent stalling, all tonight's bouts will be subject to the get-down rule.
It is time to start our night with a quarterfinal matchup here in our Absolute Tournament. Let's take a look at the tail of the tape. Haisam Rita, 29 years old, as is his opponent, Patrick Gaudio. It is Rita that will have a 6-pound advantage here in the weight department. For our official introductions here and to get our night started in Vegas, here is Justin Bernard.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the UFC Fight Pass Invitational 3. Live from the UFC Apex, Las Vegas, Nevada. Our first match is in the Absolute Tournament quarterfinals, scheduled for 8 minutes plus overtime. Introducing Patrick Gaudio versus Haisam Rita.
Well, here we go, matchup number 1 in our Absolute Tournament, quarterfinal matchup here between Haisam Rita and Patrick Gaudio.
Fight!
TJ DeSantis, Brandon McCatherine, Michael Chiesa, Matt Side here inside the UFC Apex. Appreciate you joining us tonight for the UFC Fight Pass Invitational.
They're going head-to-head to start off right away.
Yeah, I like that. You know, I've always been curious why everybody wants to interlock the fingers. Why not go for wrist control instead?
They're looking for that Hulk Hogan. Trying to
A test of strength.
trying to get that mercy grip going.
Right?
30 seconds down here. Our tournament matchups here are 8 minutes
30 seconds,
and
guys.
all subject to the get down rule. So if this fails to hit the floor, we will put them there.
I like how
20
Rita
seconds,
went
get
that
down.
foot sweep right there.
Yeah, he swung all the way through like he's throwing a tie kick.
Yeah, it was like he's going for a calf kick.
Rita took a seat there for just a brief moment, back to his feet.
10 seconds.
Yeah, that was pretty interesting to go for the offense, look for an offensive takedown, and then when that fails, sit to his butt. Give a little best of both worlds.
Time.
There, the get down rule now will be in play. Going to see the referee flip a coin. The winner of the
Heads
coin
red,
flip will get to
tails
choose what position they start in, either top or bottom. It will start in
Tails
butterfly
back to-
guard with
You want
double
top or bottom?
underhooks.
Top. Butterfly guard. Sit on your back.
Looks like Rita is going to be
Up.
on
Patrick,
bottom
on your
here to
knees.
start.
On your knees. Get your underhooks. Rita, get your underhooks.
It's interesting that the time
side,
keeps going as they
side.
try to position the athletes right
Ready?
now.
Ready? Fight!
All right, here we go. Each guy has his own advantage from that get down position, that double under butterfly, but Rita bails on it quickly and goes into this body triangle.
Yeah, that surprised me that he goes for the closed body triangle with how big his levers are to start with the butterfly hooks. He could have went for a sweep, but
Yeah.
chooses to close up the guard.
Very interesting. I would have thought that he would have tried to get something else cooking there, but he wants to, oh, look at this, maybe going to try to cut an angle against the
Gaudio
stand.
standing now in this koala position, if you will.
I mean,
Now back to the floor.
We saw how dangerous he is with his arm bars at the ADCC this year when he took on Cyborg. I mean, for him to get an angle and get your arm, you're going to be in deep trouble.
Yeah, that was one of the wildest moments in jiu-jitsu history. That's that crowd erupting when he got that armbar against Cyborg.
I wish he could have wore his giraffe crash guard tonight.
Gaudio standing to get the break. Rita gets the off balance, though.
I like how he feinted the sweep right there. Saw him kind of twist his hips and bring his foot off the mat like he was going to look to sweep him down.
Yeah, Gaudio did a nice job keeping his balance. He got dropped to his hip for a split second, but as soon as Rita broke the grips to try to come back.
Now Gaudio takes a seat. Rita grabbing hold of that left ankle.
I saw it. Look how big Rita's hands are. When he grabbed his ankle, it looked like his fingers were overlapping each other. He looks like he has tremendous grip strength.
Yeah, he's huge, and he's super skilled too, man. Rita's really been making a mark on the jiu-jitsu scene the last couple of years. Oh, Gaudio looking to invert and go underneath, maybe thinking about that leg attack on the opposite side.
We talk about the explosion of submission grappling as of late. This is a very big event, and I think that was evident by the fact that there are lines out here, guys. There are odds for all of our matches tonight, and Haisam Rida finds himself as a minus 155 favorite here to Gaudio.
I tread lightly when I talk about betting anymore.
Fair.
Smart play. Gaudio controlling the ankle with his left hand, starting to slip up. He wants to create an off balance against Haisam here. Now gets into the shin to shin, big throw over.
Scramble ensues here at the halfway point of regulation. 4 down, 4 to go.
There's that lace. You can see Gaudio turning his hand sideways in there, really trying to keep that grip tight on Haisam's fingers.
You know, at what point does a ref intervene when the guys start interlocking fingers?
I don't think at all, unless it looks like one of the digits is getting isolated separately from the others. But they're definitely allowed to interlace the fingers. Like you said, how much does it actually accomplish? I don't know.
Let's go, guys.
Yeah.
Action. Action.
Unless you can do the mercy game and twist the wrist over.
And that does happen from time to time. You know, Wagner, he's known for that. Wagner Rocha, he'll get in there and he'll lace up the hands and take that wrist the other direction.
That comes as no surprise. I trained with him on Fight Island, and for him to be able to do something like that comes as no surprise.
Gaudio trying to get into this De La Hiva, gonna go invert underneath.
Oh, I like that. That was beautiful.
Gaudio ends up here almost securing this top position, but he's got that hook in almost. Let's see if he can step across and clear these legs.
We saw Gaudio posting on the neck there. You're not allowed to clasp the hands around the throat, but you are allowed to use the hand to post. And so you can create a frame. You can even create a bit of choking pressure, X-guard position for Rita.
I like that. Especially those long levers. You'd think X-guard would be one of his better positions.
So Rita really trying to grab a hold of that right leg of Gaudio, but Gaudio wise to it, able to get free.
And each guy comfortable trading positions, back and forth. We've seen each guy test out his guard willingly. We've seen each guy choose the top position willingly. Gaudio lacing the left arm through the leg. He may have been thinking about trying to get into a false read. Instead, bails out to his closed guard.
Yeah, I've been liking the exchanges a lot. Both guys having their moments on bottom, getting sweeps, getting each other off balance. Really like the use of the X-guard for Rita.
Neither guy, though, really able to create any opportunities for himself. And here's a shot at the triangle. As soon as I say that, oh, he's locking it up.
He might have it.
There's a lot of shoulder in there. He's going to have to cut the angle.
Yeah, his foot's really shallow.
I can hear him in there. It's getting close.
Now coming up to that mounted position is Gaudio trying to read.
Oh, he's going to finish that one.
He's got it.
There's the tap. Oh! Patrick Gaudio via triangle on his way to the semifinals. Beautifully done. He bided his time, waited for it when he saw the opportunity, shot for that triangle,
Patrick, over
and
here.
ultimately
Rita.
it punches his ticket to the semifinals. Beautifully done.
All right.
Solid stuff there turned in by Patrick Gaudio. For our official decision and the time of the stoppage, we go to Justin Bernard.
Ladies and gentlemen, after 6 minutes, 14 seconds, our referee calls a stop to the match for your winner by submission via triangle choke and advancing to the semifinals, Patrick Gaudio.
So far, so good for Patrick Gaudio. Gets the triangle submission. BMAC, he was, very patient, and when he saw that opportunity, he got it, stuck with it, ultimately got the tap.
Yeah, and it was just an old school pop
next time
triangle
we'll go.
setup. Watch this. He just stuffed the arm through, just made it lazy and threw it out of nowhere. Changed speed, changed direction, and then controlled the posture. Initially, he had a lot of shoulder involved in this, but we could hear Rita. He was struggling while he was stuck in this position, and as Rita tried to escape, Patrick able to come up to the mount position, cut the angle here, rolls back through, and gets a beautiful triangle choke.
Yeah, that was just a beautiful, the way he swept himself to the top to readjust the triangle, really get that foot behind the knee. I mean, like you said, we could hear him gurgling before there was the readjustment. So that's one way to start the match, not to mention you have your wife competing later, so way to lead the charge.
So far, so good for Patrick Gaudio. We'll see him later tonight in our tournament semifinal. UFC Fight Pass is home to the world's largest combat sports library and over 200 live events a year, including Cage Warriors, Aries FC, Cage Fury FC, LFA, and more. Sign up today to see the stars of tomorrow before they reach the UFC. Only with UFC Fight Pass. Step into our world. More action headed your way, part of our single elimination 8-man tournament. Tail the tape for this one. Mason Fowler, 29 years old, 13 years the elder of Pat Shigoli. Shigoli heavier at 253 to Fowler's 225. To keep things going, here is Justin Bernard.
Ladies and gentlemen, our next match is an absolute tournament quarterfinals scheduled for 8 minutes plus overtime. Introducing to you, Pat Shangoli versus Mason Fowler.
Here we go, Mason Fowler, the Submission Underground Open champion. He takes on the Adult Slayer. Pat Shigoli. Shigoli has really been a story to follow here in the submission grappling world. He won 4 matches just to get into the Eddie Bravo Invitational, did well there. They call him the Adult Slayer for a reason. He's been slaying adults.
And he's been slaying them with authority, too. Very aggressive submission hunter, loves the heel hook. And, he moves pretty well. But Mason Fowler, no stranger to the big stage. We've seen him at ADCC multiple times. We've seen him, again, one of the most accomplished grapplers in the sport. But this is all new for Pat Shigoli. Everything's new for Pat Shigoli. He's 16 years old.
Yeah, I wonder if he has a driver's license.
I mean, I know he can't go to a rated R movie.
No, he probably has an ASB card.
Shigoli trying to, avenge his father's loss, who was beaten by Mason Fowler a couple of years ago. So built-in storyline here. If being a 16-year-old wasn't a storyline enough, now he needs to defend.
Look at that. Mason just aggressively changing speed, changing direction, getting around to the north-south position against that open guard work of Shigoli, and now he's clamped down.
Yeah, Shigoli moves good for a bigger guy, but I mean, Mason, he's built like an athlete. This isn't me taking a shot at neither guy, but when you look at how physical Mason is, he's got a physical presence in there, and he made that pass look effortless.
And just the amount of experience that Mason brings to the table. Again, man, Shigoli, he's not just new to grappling, he's new to all of these experiences. You know, he's still a young man, and so this is a big moment for him, but just the experience of Mason Fowler in all kinds of different rule sets on so many different stages, it's already proven to be a real problem here for Shigoli.
Fowler, the 2020 UFC Fight Pass Fighter of the Year, which says something too. I mean, you think about all the great athletes that compete on UFC Fight Pass, but Fowler was able to get that award and to do so as a submission grappler, not even a mixed martial arts.
Guys, action.
Well, you just look at all the success he had on Submission Underground. I mean, he was the king of that promotion for a very long time.
They beat Craig Jones in that rule set twice, which is unbelievable.
Patient here's Fowler in this north-south position.
Yeah, not really putting a ton of weight on him either, just keeping the corners covered. See, he's on his knees, so he's not driving forward heavy. He does have an isolation over here, maybe thinking about pulling Pat up onto his side, start isolating a Kimura, and I do think that's what he's looking for.
Yeah, from our vantage point, you couldn't see it on camera, but from where we're sitting, the view we had, he was definitely trying to isolate the arm. And I like that. If you're going against a young kid that's really good with these heel hooks, what's a good way to take advantage of your man strength versus his kid strength is isolate a limb. You go Kimura. I mean, there's going to be, not only is it two limbs on one, but it's like that's both of your hands against one child's hands. This is a child. I mean, it's safe to say we can call him that. This is a kid in there.
Yeah, and Mason doing a really good job of staying out of any of the places where Pat has shown himself to be dangerous in the past, which is out in these open guard situations where you're trying to stand and pass him. He finds a way to get underneath you in those kind of moments. And Mason bypassing all that by sliding out to this north-south position.
Oh, you might have that arm right there. That just shows too that Mason respects what Shigoli's good at. The fact that he's not playing that game, the fact that he's staying out of the positions that give him any shot to get a lock on one of his legs. I mean, shows that there's some respect there.
And every time that Pat starts to build up and get to his side even a little bit, Mason, with this isolation that he has here against the left arm of Shigoli, when Shigoli tries to get up just a little bit, it's going to expose that limb further and further.
Yep. You can see him starting to bury that hand in there.
Here's the grip.
Oh, he might have it. Let's go. I'm liking the game plan for Mason Fowler right now.
Yeah, it's a smart game plan. It's not a high-energy game plan, but it's one that can get him through 3 matches if need be.
Absolutely.
So that's important to remember. These guys, to win this thing, you've got to come through and take out 3 different opponents before the night's over.
Yeah, that makes it an interesting approach. Is do you go balls out for the sub and try to avoid overtime, or do you get comfortable with conserving energy and potentially having to go the distance? It's a very interesting idea of how would you approach something like this.
Fowler set up and mount now.
Yeah, big position change. He's going to be able to drop his weight way more effectively here. He's already got the arm isolated. He's looking to put him over into this chop and block position, maybe isolate for an arm triangle.
He's going key lock.
Shigoli got to be careful here. He doesn't give the full back exposure or even the arm lock. Mason definitely thinking arm lock. Here's the angle change.
Trying to step over for this arm bar. Shigoli trying to move with it.
He's in big trouble.
Trying to step forward.
He might have it.
Oh my goodness.
Tap.
There's the tap.
Wow.
You all right?
Pat Shigoli could only hang out for so long before he had to tap. Mason Fowler, my goodness.
Yeah, just got both these guys, they have handfuls of Shigoli's hair.
All right, for the official time of the stoppage, we'll get it. Mason Fowler on his way to the semifinals. Here is Justin Bernard.
Ladies and gentlemen, after 4 minutes, 58 seconds, our referee calls a stop to the match. For your winner by submission via armbar and advancing to the semifinals, Mason Fowler.
Mason Fowler gets his hand raised, a submission over Pat Shigoli, punches his ticket to the semifinals, and it was a game of patience for the Submission Underground champion. He knew what he wanted to do, avoided that game of Pat Shigoli in the leg locks, and ultimately gets us up.
And look at that great angle change. Shigoli started going vertical with him, picked Mason up off the ground. But Mason does a great job just following that energy, continuing to pull the isolation out. And you see he was able to keep that elbow line trap. Pat tried to turn every direction, and then once Mason throws the leg over, the posture's controlled, the arm is isolated, and the break is inevitable.
Yeah, when he threw his leg over the top, you knew he had the lock tight. But like you said, he controlled the elbow, he controlled that line, and ultimately ended up with a submission. So good for Mason Fowler. That's got me already salivating for the semis. Gaudio and Fowler is going to be a tremendous match.
Can't wait to see it later tonight here at the Fight Pass Invitational 3. This Saturday, Jared Cannonier and Sean Strickland close out the UFC's 2022 slate. Find out which middleweight will propel themselves forward in a suddenly wide open 185-pound division. The main card is yours coming up on ESPN+. All right, we are done here on YouTube, but you can follow all the action exclusively over on UFC Fight Pass and, of course, the Metaverse. Live from Las Vegas, this is the UFC Fight Pass Invitational 3.
This is as real as it gets, and it's mind-blowing.
I loved everything about that fight.
These are the moments that the fighters live for.
I can't wait. Oh! Kicked him in the face.
Dog Rose.
We will all witness a piece of UFC history.
Unbelievable. You're sitting at home watching this, and you just go, holy sh**. The double champ does what he wants.
Master, teach me Kung Fu.
One of the most epic fights.
There's nothing I do better in this life than fighting.
Unbroken, baby. This team is unbroken.
We have a sport with some of the best athletes in the world.
Boom!
One of the greatest knockouts you'll ever see.
Oh!
The UFC has never been stronger.
It does not get any better. Oh, that is good. This is a crazy sport, ladies and gentlemen.
Our action continues here in Las Vegas. Our next quarterfinal bout is up next. We'll see Andy Varela, the 10th Planet product, take on Luke Griffith. Varela, 30 years old, 9 years the elder of Luke Griffith. Griffith heavier at 235 to Varela's 186 pounds. For our official introduction to this quarterfinal, here's Justin Bernard.
Ladies and gentlemen, our next match is an absolute